What's going on, fellas? This is Mike D, Mr. Double Down on You with another episode of Black Fathers Now. Now, dig this, man. We have a really powerful conversation. We got a brother who's gone through some twists and turns and all of that, but ultimately, he's actually living his purpose right now. And that brother that I'm talking about is none other than my frat brother, Chavis Smith. You know, Chavis is a husband, he's a father, he's an entrepreneur. He's a former football player at the University of Tennessee. And we'll talk a little bit about that journey and everything. But then he navigated, had some twists and turns to ultimately step into his passion. And now the brother is killing it. So fellas and ladies listening too, because y'all like to tune in to what we're talking about, let's welcome my man, my dog, Chavis Smith. What's up, brother?
What's up, Dorsey?
How you doing, man?
Good. What yourself?
Man, I can't complain, man. You know, taking everything one moment at a time, no faster, no slower, brother. That's how we roll.
Yes, sir.
That's what's up, man. Well, dude, man, you know, I gave the intro and we're going to jump into your story in a second. But before we get started, I always like to have the brothers give shout outs because when you think about a movie, all the important people in a movie get mentioned first. And I like to do that with the movie of your life or the movie of our conversation. So give some shout outs to the folks that basically allow you to be the brother that you are day in and day out.
Well, first, I'd like to give a shout out to my Lord and Savior Jesus, who has, has grounded me, has kept me, has always been in my life since, a young age. My mom she didn't play about that. So I'd like to give him a shout out first. And my wife, she comes second to none. And she has been there from day one, supporting me, has kept me grounded as well. And my mom has, she has been there since day one as well too. So I'd definitely like to give her a shout out as well. And all my kids, just want to let them know I love them.
That's what's up, man. Look, God, wife, mama, and the kids. Like, bruh, I think you did a pretty good shout out, Liz. Well, man, so thinking of that, and you mentioned, your wife's been there since day one, but I want you to take it back, man, to the origin story. You're originally from North Carolina, correct?
Forest City, North Carolina.
All right. So talk to us a little bit about growing up in Forest City. Talk about, some of the inspirations and some of the things that basically, helped to mold you into the brother that you are today, growing up.
Oh boy, Forest City, it wasn't just this, it wasn't ghetto, it wasn't hood. It was just a little small town called Grimtown. That's the neighborhood I grew up in. And growing up there, man, it made me who I was, bro. Because, you got the older guys, you only get out there and play some ball. I'm 12 years old, and they 19, 20, but they're going to treat you like you're 19 or 20. So I'm going to be crying and whining and going home, running to mama, this, that, and the other. So it made me tougher as a young boy back then. So it kind of molded me into who I am today. That drive, that go get it, nothing's going to get in my way. And that's like still.
So basically, it's just kind of like, so you grow up in an environment in which you basically were, you were forced to kind of man up a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
At an early age.
Yeah. And so for those that are like, watching the video of this or just listening to the conversation, you're only seeing Chavis from the neck up. This is a big old joker too. So I could also assume, you don't show that. So if you're watching the video, he's paying down. Chavis is a big old brother. So I would also say that you're probably a little unique versus other folks in which you were probably 12 and as big as the 19 or 20-year-olds as well too, right?
It's just, I was telling my son the other day, I said, he's 15. I said, dude, when I was 15, I was 260, 270. He was like, what? I said, yeah, boy, I was fed well, boy, as a child. So I ain't missed no meal, I'll tell you that.
So it's not that just because you grew up in Grim City, you got treated like an adult. People saw you coming and they were like, this joker got to be about 24. I was like, no, he's 12. And so,
yeah, man. And when I played baseball, man, I was better at baseball than I was football. So my mom literally had to carry my birth certificate everywhere we go just to prove that I was 12 years old. That's the crazy part.
That joker, look, people get tats of everything. That joker said, I should have got a tattoo of my birth certificate on my arm so that y'all can believe.
Exactly.
Oh, that's funny. And so, and you say what now?
I loved it.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, it's cool though. And, and see, I grew up in Augusta. Augusta, Georgia is comparable in size to maybe like Knoxville, Tennessee. So and that's where we currently live now. And so Augusta's not a big city, but it definitely is, it's probably bigger than Grim City, like where you grew up, but it's definitely not a big city. So you kind of got that small town vibe as well, where they got the neighborhoods and, you got land and space and, and I think it's more so the mentality than it is the area, right? So we were kind of country, you had the gardens and picking stuff off the trees and eating and, you have that mentality. But I think that's something that we miss today with the new technological advancements and growing in this and growing in that. We miss sometimes the simplicity of those things that we had growing up in smaller areas.
Yeah, I know when I grew up, man, we didn't have the washing and dryers. My grandparents, they washed clothes by hands and you hung them up outside on the clothes line. I was out the garden picking beans, picking greens, picking all that good stuff. So grew up with iPhones and PlayStation 5s and different things like that. So you couldn't text a friend, you couldn't FaceTime. You had to go outside and wait on them to come out.
Look, you couldn't text them. You had to go outside and wait on them to come out. If it took them too long, you knew they was in trouble. Their mom wouldn't let them outside.
I can't come out today, boss.
I can't come out today. And you had to yell through the screen door to get to them.
Yeah.
I love it, man. I love it. But to me, those are, it's interesting. Those little nuances mean so much to us. And at the time, we took them for granted. You know what I'm saying? I know I did. Like, to your point, you mentioned picking greens and beans. My granddad had a garden. And I sit down and my cousins and I talk all the time how we used to have little battles on the floor when grandma would have us shelling peas. We'd be shooting peas across each other on the floor there. You know what I'm saying? Like those little memories. But then it's like those are things that I don't forget. I can't remember what was bought. I can't remember stuff, but I can remember those experiences. And so for those that are listening that grew up in a small environment, that grew up in the country, a small town, you probably have these things, these little memories that maybe growing up you thought were minimal. But as you become older, those are things that really are like experiences that shape you.
Yes. Yeah, because I sort of helped my granddaddy dig graves at the age of 12. And I was telling my son about it. I was like, bro, he had a tiller, he'd till down about a foot or so. You had to get in there by hand with a shovel it all out, man. It'd take you 3 or 4 hours just to dig a grave. And 6 foot. And then you had to go back, cover it by hand. So
hold on. You cannot gloss over that. So at 12, you were helping your granddad dig graves. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, because we didn't have no backhoes. So and like I said, we grew up, we wasn't poor, but we was close to it. So, we get up there with a tiller, and he'd till down about 6 inches or so, and you got to get out there and shovel that dirt out. Shovel it out. Anyway, he kind of marked it out to like the casket would fit down in the hole. So we get out there and dig it out by hand, and then have to cover it back up by hand.
Was your granddad, was he like did he have like a funeral home or something, or why was he digging graves?
No, he was basically kind of like contracted out through a funeral home. Okay. So that was the edge. Could you come out? We got a body we need to be buried. So we go out, set the tent up, and then the vaultman would actually come later on after we got it and set the vault in there. And then, they have the arrangements and everything. And after the family leaves, drop the casket, we'd cover it all back up.
Wow. And a question, when you sit there and think about that, how does that, because I'm thinking about me at 12, right? And at 12, at first, I don't like to go to funerals now, but, I can deal with them now as a 41-year-old man. But at 12, it's just like, I didn't want to go to funerals. I wasn't dealing with all that kind of stuff. But at 12, you were helping your granddaddy dig graves. Yeah.
And he's another person that made me who I am today, man. That work ethic that I have. I go hard. And he's always said, if you want something in life, you work for it. So I started working at 12, started buying my own clothes, my own shoes, all that stuff, man. So that's what I am today. I work for what I want.
I work for what I want. and you started digging graves at 12. It's just, I think we're gonna come back to that in some capacity. I don't know how, but something about that we're gonna come back to, because to me, it's interesting, little nuances that really inform a person's mindset and how they operate. Like you mentioned, you're gonna work for it, but it also informed me to the notion of you're willing to just do what it takes, and I don't care what people say. I don't care what people think. I don't care how it looks. If this job needs to be done, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, and so I wasn't out just running the streets. Kept me safe, kept me from out of trouble. Really, really appreciate that, because at an early age, I started like about 10, 11 years old, I started stealing. So, and that, I guess that was his way of, let me get a hold to him and take him under my wings and show him how it's really done. So supposed to be done.
Hold on. So now, hold on. So now you skipping over stuff. I said, tell me the origin story, and you told me a little bit about it, and then you jumped over, and then you sprinkled in. I was digging graves at 12. Then you sprinkle in again. Yeah, when I was like 9 or 10, I started stealing, and so to keep me from stealing, my granddaddy got a hold of me, and he started helping me he started making me help him dig graves. Pause and think about that, fellas. I hope y'all are listening to what just happened. Chavis just said, he was starting to go left a little bit when he was a little boy. We all have our moments. And what happened was his granddaddy stepped in and said, "No, boy, you finna come with me for a little bit." And he started making him dig graves. Like, pause and think about that. I'm stealing. I'm getting in trouble. Like, okay, I'm now gonna make you start digging graves. See, it's interesting. What do people tell you when you start, like if you get into the dope game or something, what do they say it's going to end up? It's going to end up in one or two places. Where?
The grave or jail.
There it is. And so you started stealing. So instead of your granddaddy telling you you're going to end up in jail or the grave stealing from folks, he was like, "Nah, I'm going to make you dig some graves.
I'm going to show you where you might end up at.
I'm going to show you." See, this is, dude. The title of this podcast is called Black Fathers Now. And it was interesting. Like, how old do you is your grandfather still alive?
No, he passed years back, right?
Years back. And so I would assume, your granddad probably born in 20s or 30s, something like that, right?
Yeah, but I think it was like 1916, somewhere along there.
Oh, wow. So I want y'all to think about that. This Black man, his grandfather, saw that he was going left. And instead of telling him where he could end up, he came and showed him where he could end up. And he also instilled some work ethic in him by doing so in the process. And I was just saying that because as Black fathers now, a lot of times we think about how do we show up as men? How do we show up as fathers? And a lot of times we feel like we got to tell people. We got to tell them how to do this and tell them how to do that. We got to give people the game. Sometimes the game is not to be told, it's to be showed, right? And your grandfather, a brother who was born in roughly 1916, was showing you the game. And I just think that's a powerful example of the strength of Black fatherhood, because that laid the foundation for your work ethic going forward as well, and kept you out of trouble.
Yep, it did. It taught me the value of $1 too, man. It really did. So, and I really appreciate it. Man,
dude. And so what's interesting about that work ethic, inspiration, help from the outside, from your grandfather coming in, really, taking an interest in you. But then you also mentioned in the community, the older fellas treated you a little older, partly because you was a big old joker. But then the other part to it was, they were just helping you to become a man. Yeah. And I also know that, you ended up going to play football at the University of Tennessee, right? So talk to me about how some of that then also helped you in your athletic journey and how that kind of came into fruition.
It made me mentally and physically stronger, because once I got to UT, I was no longer the bigger guy no more. So it's time you got to really man up as a freshman. So it kind of took me back to my childhood, to where these guys is much bigger and stronger than me. So I got to go even harder in paint. And like I said, it wasn't no crying, none of that, man. They'd foul you. Like during it, throw you to the ground, you better not call foul. If you got crying, you off the court. That's So it made me tough, for sure.
It made you tough, but it is interesting how experiences in our lives tend to prepare us for what's to come, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so all of that was in preparation for you to be somebody who got to a point in which, you're heavily recruited and you got options to go to college. Now, did you have people before you go to college, or were you the first one in your family to go to school as well?
Yeah, first one.
So you're the first one to go to college. So you've given these examples, you had this environment, this family structure and all of that. Then you become a good athlete. And all of a sudden, you're now this guy who got options, right? You can go to, now what were I know you chose UT, but what were some of the other options that you had coming out of high school?
I had Clemson, South Carolina, Georgia, about every school in the state of North Carolina won. Mm-hmm. Let's see. No, there wasn't a lot of other schools in the SEC.
Gotcha.
Mostly ACC.
Gotcha. And then what made you choose University of Tennessee at that point? And what year was this? This was what, 2009? What was this?
I came up here in '98 when they won the national championship and they beat Florida. And they kicked and missed the field goal. Mm-hmm. And about 50. I'm on the 50-yard line, about halfway up. Mm-hmm. And they kicked and missed it, man. And I'm like, these people crazy. They sort of rushing the field. I was like, I'm not going out there. But you really have a choice because you got 100,000+ people pushing you. So I ended up on the field as well. They turned the goalpost down, turned grass up. And we was leaving. They carrying the goalpost down Kingston Pike. And I was just like, this is crazy. This is where I'm going. But back up, I went to North Carolina on my sophomore year. They was actually recruiting my brother for a visit. So I went down there as well on a visit with him. And I was close to going there. But once I came to Knoxville in '98, saw that. So hands down, this is where I'm going.
This is it. And so then you transition. So again, like you said, you're the first one in your family to go to school and all of that. You got this opportunity. You go to UT and you play football. Talk to us a little bit about the journey, but then also talk a little bit about, I guess, transitioning from college. And then you try to get to the NFL too, right?
Yeah. Yes. Well, I'll start by saying I got all my recruiting and everything, and I was lazy academically, man. Just wasn't all there. Just didn't put forth the effort like I should have done, and ended up going to Fort Union Military Academy. So I went I think I was there for about 7 months. When I say it's out in the middle of nowhere, bro, I think it had one red light for about 20 miles.
Wow. Little
convenience store, little pizza place, and that's all it was. So you couldn't just hop up and go home every weekend. Mm-hmm. And it was really structured, man. I mean, you up every morning at 6 o'clock, every morning, 7 days a week.
Wow.
Well, I basically went there to get my grades up.
Okay.
So after about 6 months there, I finally got my grades right to where they needed.
Okay. But and then you were able to enroll in UT after that? Yeah,
it was like they call it postgraduate program. So any kids that wanted an extra year basically of school before they went to college. So that's what I went to in '90 and got there in '99. Then I got to UT in 2000.
Okay, gotcha. So then you got to 2000. In 2000, you got to UT and basically, started playing football there. Talk to us a little bit about your journey at UT, and then you also sniffed a little bit going into the NFL. But then, so talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when I got to UT, I'm thinking, man, look, I'm about to be the biggest dog out here, bro. I got there. Of course, we have like a freshman mini camp. I think it was like 3 days. So all the freshmen come in. I'm about their size or maybe a little bigger. And then some of the seniors and juniors started walking in. I'm like, wait, I got to call my mama because I don't know where they grow these kids at. You got John Henderson, 6'8", Will Offenhuser, he's like 6'8". I'm like, Albert Hainsworth, I'm like, where is these guys coming from? Uh-huh. Good night. But, it goes back to that mentality of back on the playground, bro. Look, these kids is bigger, stronger, and faster than you. So I got to work twice as hard. So that's what kind of started my journey right there my freshman year. I didn't play a whole lot my freshman year. I played on kickoff return. And then I got to bragging to Coach Fulmer one day. He's like, have you ever played in the office? I'm like, yeah, I was the best fullback and tight end there was. He's like, all right, come see me. Got to his office. He was like, yeah, we're going to put you on offensive line. You serious? He's like, yeah. He's like, you get over there. If you don't like it, we'll move you back to defense. So all the seniors that was on D-line was like, bro, get over there. Don't learn nothing. Mess up much as possible and then move you back. Man, I'm at the back of the line, trying not to get in, trying not to learn nothing. Man, Coach walked over, Chavis. He didn't call me Chavis. Chavis, I want you in at the 1s, the 2s, and the 3s. I said, oh my God. So he kind of forced me to learn offense, which I grew to love it because I knew both sides of the ball. Mm-hmm. So it really helped me out knowing both sides, which they changed our whole class. Like Jason Witten, he was a defensive end. Rashad Baker, he was a receiver.
Wow.
So Jabari Green, they moved everybody around, man.
Wow. So basically kind of mixing and matching and finding fits. But you thought you were going to play on the defensive side of the ball. Coach Fulmer pulled you back and basically said, why don't you come over here and play a little offense? And next thing you know, you end up loving it.
Yeah, I did. I ended up starting the end of my sophomore year, junior year. I ended up starting. So that was a great experience. And like running to let me tell you my experience about running to the T. So first game, I walk out there, pregame. I'm like, man, they talking about 100,000 people, man. I'm looking up at the stadium. I'm like, ain't nobody here, man. I could have stayed at home for this. I went to North Carolina because ain't nobody here. So we go through the little warm-up routine and everything, go back in the locker room. Man, I walk back out there right before they open up the tee. I still get chill once talking about it. And you can see the Jumbotron from when we run out. So you see the band doing a little thing, and then you see the tee open up, and we just run out of it, bro. And I ain't never in my life heard a crowd so loud.
Really?
Ever. And man, my adrenaline was going so much, so fast, bro. I had to go and sit down because I ain't never experienced it. Like, I'm a little country boy. This thing, man.
Wow.
So, the day I was like, man, I made a great decision because this is amazing.
And so you made a great decision, but then you also were opened up to an opportunity to then go to the other side of the ball, which ended up being a great decision for you as well. And you said you ended up starting sophomore year through your junior year, and your senior year as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then talk to me about after that. So then, things go pretty well for you, and then UT is over. So what happened next?
So then, draft day comes. Didn't get drafted, which is fine. Agent, a lot of teams kept calling, hey, have you got drafted? Have you got drafted? Now this is like 6th round, 7th round now. So finally I went down and sat down with my agent. He's like, well, you got Baltimore wanting you, you got the Ravens wanting you. So he kept negotiating the contract back and forth. So he's like, well, the Ravens going to give you $11,000 a week, and Texas is going to give you $13,000 a week. So we're going to go with the Texans. So that's how I kind of ended up signing with the Texans.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so how did that whole process go?
So I've never really told a lot of people this story. So I got down there, first day, rookies show up. They kind of explain to you how everything works and, all the rules and stuff you can and can't do. And you fill out the medical form. So I went through there trying to be honest as possible. Any heart conditions? Yeah, I got a heart murmur. Next day, trainer called me over. He's like, got a heart murmur. So yeah, I've had it since high school. He said, well, we're going to send you to our team doctor, which he cleared me. He said, I don't see no problems, this, that, and other. But the Texas head trainer, which wasn't there, wouldn't clear me.
Really?
Yeah. So they pretty much said, I was just sitting in meetings, and they called me and said, Chavis, we need to see you. Just like this. We need to see you. He said, go, we're going to send you back to the hotel, Greystone, put you on a plane, send you back home.
Wow.
He's like, because all this stuff wasn't in your medical record. So UT took all my heart stuff out of my medical records and didn't tell me.
Really?
Every bit of it. So got on the plane, got home, cried a little bit. I asked to go back and finish school. So I went over to UT and was like, what's the deal with my medical records? And it was like, not my problem. Those are the trainer's exact words.
Really?
Not my problem.
Wow.
I still remember told me, yep, not my problem. So I've had a bad taste in my mouth from them for a long time.
Hold on. So pause. So you had a heart murmur in high school, like you got diagnosed, or they found a heart murmur, and that didn't stop your recruitment. That didn't stop you from going to college.
No, because when I got to UT, they sent me to all these specialists. They're going to do surgery, this and the other. but the technology, it wasn't up to where it should have been. It was like a 75% chance of success. Mm-hmm. And my mom and my brother was like, it was kind of worried about it because he wasn't up in the 90s or close to 100%. So I really didn't go through it. So it's not like they didn't know anything about it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. But they didn't list any of that in your medical records at UT. And so when you try to go to the NFL, that it basically looked like you were lying on your medical records, or somebody was lying on your medical records. And so that's why they just said, cut it. You're hiding something from us.
Yep. So, and, I was first contract with Texans was $250,000 a year, and it went up like 100 or 200,000 every year.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because, when you stop and you think about things that happen, everything in life happens for a reason, right? Like if you stop, you think about it, everything in life happens for a reason. And while we're going through something, it don't always make sense. You know what I'm saying? Because you just like, especially when it's not any fault of your own. See, that's and I want brothers to really pay attention to that. I want the sisters listening to pay attention to that. We're all going through something. We've all gone through stuff, right? But while you're going through it, it never makes sense. And you make it even more confusing when you don't have nothing to do with it. It's somebody else's doing that's causing all of this. And then you get that whole why me perspective. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So how did you deal with that? Like after that, when again, it was not your fault, you were about to live your dream, you about to, have a $250,000 contract initially. And that's before getting, starting or doing whatever, which would possibly been in the millions and all of that. How did you mentally come to grips with that?
It was rough. Like I said, I cried for a little minute, talked to my mom for a while. She was just like, hey, that's not God's plan. Mm-hmm. So, you can't argue with God's plan. If it's his plan, it's his will, then I'll still be in the league. But he wanted me to go a different direction. So went back and finished up school, got married. Had my first child, got married. So,
wow, dude,
it was rough.
I bet. Because I could literally. For me, I'm still sitting here thinking about just the whole premise of when something's not my fault. Like I can kind of get it if I screw up. I can get it if it's something I do and it's like, okay, I got caught, right? But this was somebody else's negligence that was kind of the cause of this whole confusion. And that's the part that would really get me. And so to your point, that's why I was really kind of harping on it, because I think a lot of us deal with things that sometimes aren't our fault, but we still got to figure out a way to deal with them nonetheless. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think going back to school kind of got my mind off of it a little bit. It was always, that pain has always been there. In the back of my mind, it's like, and now I got to find a job because I got a daughter to take care of as well. So trying to find ways to do that. And like I said, it was hard. It was real hard. Just knowing that just knowing I've worked my tail off from the age of 11 or 12 years old to get to this point. And I've always prayed, God, let me make it to the league. Let me make it to the league. Well, I made it. I made it to the league. I guess I should have actually let me play in the league. Be careful what you pray for.
And go, you gonna say?
I guess that's why it didn't hurt so bad, because I prayed to make it to the league. I made it. I just didn't get to play.
Ooh, you made it. You just didn't get to play. So you actually got what you asked for.
Right.
It's interesting. They said, be careful what you ask for. And I think sometimes this is where we have to be careful what we ask for, not from the standpoint of something negative, but even on the upside, because sometimes we sell ourselves short, right? In the sense of sometimes it's like, well, God, just do this for me. Okay. He's like, all right, that's what you want. I'll give you that. But you just like, but you're selling yourself short. And so for me, what I'm learning in my life is like, yo, God, your will be done. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want your will to be done, whatever that is. If it's more than I could ever imagine, I'm with it. If it's nothing close to anything I could imagine, I'm with that too, because I just want your will to be done.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what happened. as well as what was done.
And so what were you gonna say?
I can live with it.
Yeah. Well, and so what did you end up? So after that, from the standpoint of jobs and all of that, what did you end up kind of jumping into, after that time frame? Because you said you had a daughter as well as, you had a son as well. So what did you end up doing after that?
Well, I had my son, then my wife got married. And then we kind of figured out now, just from job to job, I carried one job for, 5-6 years. And then I got on at Brinks. I was at Brinks driving the armored truck for 13 years. And about 4 months ago, I decided to leave them and run my food truck full time.
Okay, hold on. But see, you can't gloss over this. So in the midst of all of this, see, I know you, so we can go back and get deep, but we ain't gonna get too deep. But so years ago, it's funny. I remember when I think either we were at your house or something, and Valeria, your wife, was talking about how good these doggone turkeys are that Chavis does on the grill, right? And it was interesting. This was probably 10, 12 years ago, something like that. And she was saying, his turkeys on the grill, man, y'all can't beat them. Like, I ain't never had nothing like it. It literally it's the best turkey you've ever had in your life. And I was just like, okay, I got to test it to see what's going on, right? And I tested it. I was like, yeah, this brother, he know what he talking about on this grill. But it was interesting. Again, you're working for Brinks, doing the armored security stuff, but you were doing these turkeys. And then all of a sudden I heard that people started paying you to do these turkeys on the grill. This was years ago, right? Yeah. And you and I were talking, and you were saying scenarios about like, yo, I like to grill, I like to cook, and every so often people will pay me to grill something for them or pay me to cook something for them. And you mentioned years ago that if you could do anything, you were just like, dude, I would grill.
Yeah, definitely. I started out a little Walmart grill, bro. We had a little apartment over there about 5 minutes from the house, and I'd mess up food. People bring it back. Hey, man, this food ain't done. Well, get here. I put it back on there for about 5 more minutes until eventually I just started getting good at it. I'm like I said, it goes back to my childhood, man. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right. And that's what my grandfather said. If you're going to do it right. Don't do it halfway. So that's what kind of led up to me grilling. So I had a little grill, and I was like, man, I really like this. And people, my neighbors, like, I ain't never seen somebody sit outside in the rain, sleet, and snow and start a grill and just sit there and watch the food. That's what I'm passionate about it. So eventually, people was like, man, you need to get a restaurant. I'm like, man, I don't know about all that. I ain't got the business mindset for that. But and then I was like, well, maybe I can do this. So me and my wife was going to my son's basketball game and saw a big old grill sitting on the side of the road. I was like, baby, can I buy that grill? She's like, yeah, go ahead. So I bought the grill and just started doing little stuff here and there, catering. I did some catering for some Walmarts and different things like that, and just kind of started saving up my money, putting my money here and there, and then kind of got my first truck built. I started from there, and then after that, I was like, you know what? I need a bigger truck, man. So went out and had a sold out one, had a bigger truck built.
So hold on. So you're glossing over a whole lot here, and this is what's interesting. Again, so this is a brother who literally, star athlete, whatever, went to UT, ended up having an opportunity to play in the NFL, but then he got cut due to a technicality and all of that. And so like dreams were squashed, went back to school, and then he just had to figure out a way. Cause like, yo, I got a wife, kids, all of that stuff. And I got to find a way to take care of myself. And in the midst of all of that, you developed a love for grilling. You developed a love for cooking. You developed a love for doing this. And, and it takes you back to, like you mentioned before, this whole premise of, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. My granddaddy had me digging graves. I done, when I was the young dude, the old dudes made me step my game up. So I always had to basically step myself up and be the best version of who I am. So therefore, excellence was always at my core. So even me on this little Walmart grill outside of the apartment in the rain, I'm doing this with excellence, right? That ranged through in how you operate. But the thing is, you realize that you had a love and a passion for this thing, and you never let it go. Even with your job, you never let it go. That's the thing that I want people to understand. Like sometimes we feel like we have to just completely sell out and go in a particular direction. Not always, right? If you find something that you love, just don't let it go. You can still have your job, you can still have your career, you can still take care of your family, but if there's something that gives you peace, that literally fuels that fire inside of you, like grilling did for you, don't let it go. And the thing that's interesting, if you don't let it go, you start to create this snowball effect, right? And you glossed over, like I went from a grill, and I got a bigger grill, and I did a little catering, and I got a bigger one, and I did a little more catering, and I got a small food truck, then I got a bigger food truck. But you're not telling folks that, okay, I'm now actually in business. I'm actually now replacing my full-time income doing what I love to do. And I don't know if you and I were talking on the phone before you decided to step out basically step out on faith. And I remember you called. Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah, I remember. I do. I do.
And you called and you were just like, man, I want you to pray for me. I was like, wow, man, I think I'm about to I think I'm gonna quit my job and step out here full time. I was just like, what took you so long? First off, and then he's like, man, I'm a little nervous about it. I was like, and we're not gonna throw numbers out there, but I'm like, no, how much were you making? Like, and you threw a number, and I'm like, well, how much are you making on your job? And I was like, oh, okay. And you were doing this full time before? And you were like, no, I was just doing this part time. And you were already exceeding what you were making at your job. And then you were like, yeah. I was like, well, dog, what the hell are you nervous about? And so, it was the funniest thing because when you said it, it was kind of like a light bulb went off, and you were like, you know what? Real talk. I ain't got nothing to be nervous about. Like,
my wife was like, hey, baby, can I put my notice in at work? She was like, yeah. I was like, all right, cool. So I turned my notice in at work, man. It's been the best decision I've made in my life. And because I set my own schedules. So 1 week I may just not have nothing. So my youngest son told my wife, he was like, Mama, Daddy ain't got no job. She's like, yes, he do. He said, you talking about the food truck? Ain't no job.
Wow. But you know what's so powerful about that? They say when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And the seed that you are planting with your children is that they're seeing their father do that. They're seeing their father love what he does day in and day out. And also that thing that he loves is taking care of them very, very well. So you don't even understand, like you talked about the seeds being planted by your grandfather, having you shovel graves, or the seed that was planted by the brothers in the neighborhood or in the country who were basically helping you to grow up and mature. The seeds that you're planting as father, as dad, by showing them that I love what I do day in and day out. My attitude is better. How you operate is, I bet you interact with them in a totally different manner now because of the level of stress that you had doing what you used to do is changed now.
Yeah, because man, my son, he had saved me so much because I could take his cooking and my cooking, and you never know the difference.
Whoa.
That's he is. He's just as good as I am. He can run if I say, CJ, I'm gonna leave you my food truck, let you run it. He runs just as good as I could.
Wow.
So Chase, he's the same way. He's getting that itch to where he's want to do what Daddy's doing. So I'll let him season a little bit here and there, and let him run the window in the truck, a few times just to see what he's gonna do. But they want to do what I do. So like I tell my son, I said, you got to be careful who's watching you, because there's always somebody watching you, admiring you, want to be like you. But your little brother, he admires you, man. So I said, so if I raise you right, ain't a lot I got to do with Chase, because he's trying to be like you in life. So,
that's interesting, man. And I think, again, this is Black Fathers Now, and the power of example, right? It's like your words and your actions match. They come together. So it's like, because, we kind of grew up in that era of, do as I say, not as I do, right? Like, hey, I'm going to tell you to do some stuff, but I might not do it myself, right? We now, and I think that was kind of an error in the era that we grew up in, right? I think now we've come to the realization that, I got to say it, but I also got to do it, because them young jokers is watching, and they're going to want to replicate what they see. Kids don't always do what they're told, but they almost always want to at least try to replicate what they see.
Always, yes. Definitely. That's how my boys are.
And so, what were you gonna say?
So they same exact way.
And so, speaking of your boys and speaking about fatherhood, man, talk to us a little bit about your fatherhood journey in the midst of all of this, and how this, some of the things that you've gone through, from the disappointment with the NFL, to growing up, to going to college and coming back and finishing, and then the trials and tribulations leading up to where you are now. How have these things come back to really influence and impact you as a father?
Growing up, man, my mom was pretty much all I had. My dad was an alcoholic, never was in my life. So all I had was a mother's love. Didn't know how to be a father. Didn't know how to love a woman. Had to figure it out on my own. So I made myself a promise. I said, you know what? I didn't have this as a kid growing up. I'm going to make sure my kids know what my love is. So I made myself a promise. So to this day, man, I love my kids dearly. I tell them daily, I love you. They tell me daily, Daddy, I love you. My stepdad, he was there, but in and out in the streets. And my brother, I looked up to him, just like my younger son looks up to his brother. So I want to be just as good as him, if not better than him. I mean, he was a great athlete. And I played with him my freshman year in high school. He was a senior, I was a freshman. I played one defensive end, he played the other. So we always make these jokes about who's going to get to the quarterback the fastest. Wow. But he showed me some ropes and how to become a man as well, because I kind of looked up to him a lot. And he ended up going to Catawba College down in Salisbury, North Carolina. So every Saturday I would go down there. My mom had to take me down there every Friday night or every Saturday morning after the games, make sure I was at his games. So, and becoming a father, and my wife, well, I had my daughter, she was born in North Carolina. So I was kind of going back and forth to North Carolina, trying to spend time with her. It was kind of hard. And then my wife had my oldest son, and he's in home. So it's kind of different raising a young man, to become a man. So I'm just trying to figure it out. And I'm like, okay, in my mind, this is how I was raised. So in my mind, I got to do things completely different as to how I was raised in order to raise him to be a young man. So it kind of just took me back to how my granddaddy raised me. Son, you want something in life, you work for it. That's just like his freshman year in high school. He didn't play a lot. He's frustrated about it. I'm like, son, relax. You're a freshman, just relax. Sophomore year comes. Yeah, he's starting to play a little bit. And then broke his right hand. I think about the third game. So this past Friday, got the cast off his right hand, broke his left hand.
Wow.
Yes. So he's out again. I said, son, these are stepping stones. It's a minor setback. You played during your whole sophomore year, whereas I got hurt like the second game of my sophomore year. I was out the whole year. Just trying to be there and to encourage him on these little stepping stones that you're gonna go through in life. You can't get frustrated. You got to sit back, take a deep breath, and just evaluate the situation. Hey, I still got my legs. I can condition. I can do some squat. I can still run. You should get ready for next year. He was kind of sad about it, but that's just life. Things happen in life. It's okay to get down, but don't stay down. You got to get up.
Ooh, it's okay to get down. Don't stay down. You got to get up. And I'm going to throw something that's so interesting. Everything in life happens for a reason. And a lot of times the things that happen in our lives are not always about or for us, right? Sometimes we go through something, like sometimes I'll read something and it's not for me. It's for a brother that I'm going to coach later, right? Or it's not for me to learn something. It's for this individual who's going to have a question about some relationship scenario. Or it's not for me, it's for this neighbor that has a question about this thing that they're going through. I'm here to pass that information on to them. So experiences happen the same way. And you mentioned your son, he broke his one hand early this season, got the cast off, and then he broke the other one later in the season. So he's dealing with disappointment. But then I think back to his daddy, who he said some challenges growing up or whatever, got a little bit of trouble here or there. But then he got to UT, thought he was going to the NFL, but then his dreams got squashed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when you fast forward 20 years later, he's running a successful food truck and he's actually catering for the UT football team, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I've been over there. I think I've been over there like 2 or 3 times this year. It was a good experience, man.
But I'm just saying, but you see what I'm saying? It's just like football brought you, right? That was one of the things that helped you to get here. And now you're doing something in a capacity in which you're still connected with football. Because what's the name of your food truck?
Smith's End Zone Barbecue.
Smith's End Zone Barbecue. So there's this through line here that's all connected. And you said something earlier about how when you pray, and you said you prayed for God to, you wanted to get to the NFL, right? You got to the NFL, you just didn't play in the NFL. But the thing is, you're praying for success. And so now you're still affiliated with football, but just in a different capacity. So now you're feeding football players, you're feeding athletes, you're feeding coaches, you're feeding fans, you're doing all of this, and you're still connected to it just in a different capacity. So you're still in that direction. It's just not necessarily the way or the way that you initially planned it.
Right. Exactly. So I love it. I love what I do. I love a passion for it.
So what's next then? So, I mean, you got the Smith's End Zone Barbecue, the food truck. Do you have any other, big plans or visions for the brand itself going forward?
Yeah, my wife, she's trying to get her into PA school. So once she get in and get settled and get out, of course, I'd like to have like a brick and mortar or like a restaurant. I'm me personally, I like the food truck because I can go where people's at. And with a restaurant, it's like, people got to come to me now. So I may just end up doing both.
But you know what's interesting though, man? You think about the last almost 2 years and what we've dealt with, right? The pandemic. And you look at how restaurants have, a lot of them struggled and all of that. But you've had an amazing run with your food truck. So again, it's one of those things where sometimes we want this vision or we want this thing to happen a certain way, but God opens up a door to say, no, you need a food truck. And this food truck, you just said, I can go where people are. I can keep people distant. They don't have to come inside of me. I can take this bad boy home. I can park it over here. It's not the same expense as having a brick and mortar location. I mean, it's amazing how this thing comes together, brother.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I wouldn't mind having a storefront, but it's just like the overhead, man. It's just, and you with the restaurant, you got to be open, 5, 6, 7 days a week. Food truck, I set my own schedule.
You set your own schedule, and so my thing is, why would you go otherwise? You like your schedule, just figure out a way to if you need more, figure out a way to accelerate it a little bit. But dude, man, I'm proud of you, dude. You living that life, brother.
Appreciate it.
No doubt. And so how can folks who are not in Knoxville, how can they follow you, link up with you on social media? And then people in the Knoxville area, how can they connect with you and learn more about it and come out and support Smith's End Zone Barbecue?
I'm on Instagram and Facebook. And I have my phone number and email on there. It's the best way to reach me.
Okay. So on Facebook and Instagram, is it Smith's End Zone Barbecue? Is that the name of it?
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. I'll make sure to have the tag in the show notes here, Smith's End Zone Barbecue. So if y'all are in the Knoxville area, make sure to follow Smith's End Zone Barbecue and go get some grilled stuff from Chavis Smith and his family because they do the doggone thing. And I can fully endorse the brisket. Like, man, that doggone brisket, I think I need to come get me a feel pretty soon. But that brisket, man, y'all, put it this way, just let them know Mike D said, come get that brisket. You know what I'm saying? But y'all definitely follow Smith's End Zone Barbecue on all social media outlets. If you're in Knoxville, find them, check them out, figure out where they're going to be located this week, this day, whatever. Get in touch with them, reach out, shoot Chavis a DM, let them know you heard about him on Black Fathers Now. If you're not in the Knoxville area, shoot him a DM. Let him know that, hey, his story was amazing. You learned something from his story, and it's going to help you to approach life a little bit differently. because we got to encourage brothers who are doing the doggone thing to keep doing the doggone thing, because we all benefit from that.
Yes.
No doubt, no doubt. Is there anything you want to leave us with, brother?
No, man, I just appreciate your time.
Well, a man of few words, huh?
Hey, you know me.
I know, man. I'm just playing with you, dog. But nah, man, I appreciate you, man. I salute you and continue to do the doggone thing. Fellas, as always, make sure to follow Black Fathers Now on all social media outlets. Subscribe, leave ratings, share this episode out. Literally, it's going to change somebody's life. Listen to Chavis Smith's story. Don't give up. Do the doggone thing. And until next time, y'all be blessed, well, and wise. And I'll holler at you. Peace.